Hello, welcome back to the React programming series from ground up. This video we are going to see how state management is typically done in React. Let's get started. Maintaining application state is very difficult. In a complex or even semi-complex application, different components interact with each other. Like we are seeing here, multiple components are interacting with each other. If there is no centralized state store, the management of application state becomes very complex and unwieldy. And here is where Redux comes to rescue. So what is Redux? Redux is an open source JavaScript library commonly used with React for managing the state of the application. And it's particularly useful when we have a complex and scalable web application which we have to build. So the central concept here is that there is a Redux store, and Redux store is where all the state management is done. So application components update the store via actions and can subscribe to store. Subscription ensures that they are made aware via callbacks when the state in the store changes. So all these components shall be taking the state from the store. So that's in essence why the store is very important. So let's see in detail how exactly this whole thing works. So this is the high level workflow. So this picture is indicating the Redux flow. We have, like we discussed, we have actions which are there and we dispatch these actions. Actions are plain JavaScript objects that describe what should change in your application state. Uh, so when we have to update something in the store, we dispatch actions using the dispatch method. And when this action is dispatched, it is sent to something called as a reducer. So if there are multiple reducers, it is sent to each reducer, and the reducer decides whether and how to update the state. Okay, so on basis of this action, whether reducer has to update the state, and if yes, then how exactly it has to update the state. So reducers are functions that would take the current state and action as arguments and return the new state of the application. So they are primarily responsible for the state logic, state management logic. And state is basically stored in the Redux store. Uh, so it is this represents the entire state of your application. Now, once we have the state in the store, we can act on this state via either the subscribe, store subscribe, or use selector hook in the case of functional components. So subscribe method is a fundamental part of Redux store. It is used to add callback function that would be invoked every time the state in the Redux store changes, and it allows you to listen for changes in the state so that you can react to those changes in your application. A use selector hook is again part of React Redux library, and it is used to again do the state management. So use selector allows you to access and extract data from the Redux store in your functional components. Now, to understand the Redux, what we shall do is we shall be including this as a JavaScript and HTML file, and so that it is very easy to understand and appreciate what exactly is happening, and we can understand the concepts very clearly because it would be all incorporated in a single HTML file. Let's get started. So these are the 6 steps. Let me first give an introduction to these steps, and then I'll show you the steps in a file also. First, we are including the Redux library, which is a JavaScript. Then we create actions. We already discussed that actions are plain JavaScript objects, and they are what describes they are the ones which would modify the state of the store. And how they do it we will come to know. So we have to describe them, and these functions are basically returning the action. So this is one and this is another. And one important thing to note here is the type. So type refers to a string or a symbol that is used to describe the purpose of the action. Okay, so this would be used in the when we do the reducer. So this purpose is being used in the reducer to take action on the state. So then we have this reducer. So reducer specifies how the application should respond based on the actions which it receives. So reducer takes the current state and action as input and return a new state that reflects the changes after the action has been taken. So in this case, what is happening? Initially, when the state is undefined, state is initialized to a blank or empty array. If we get a add color, then we are appending the color which we receive in the action. We are appending that. If it is a remove color, then we are removing this color. So we are filtering this from the state array and returning the list after removing this specific color which was in the action. If the action type is anything apart from these two, then it returns the current state. This is the statement meant for creating the store. So store, like we discussed earlier, is the fundamental concept and central component responsible for managing the state of the application. The store holds the entire application state as a single JavaScript object tree. And this is subscribe. So subscribing to a store means registering a callback function that would be called when the state in the Redux store changes. Subscriptions allow you to listen for changes in the application state and react to those changes in your application. So what is happening here is that we are subscribing, and this is the callback function which we have here. So whenever the store changes, this callback function is being called, and what it is doing is it is getting the array, which is basically what exactly is there in the state. And what it does is, if the document is already in the ready state, meaning the document has been loaded, and post the load of the document you change the state, then what it does is it gets a element by a div element which is having the name myDiv, and it sets the background color of that div to the last element of the array, state array. When we see this in action, it will be very clear. And this is how we dispatch the actions. So dispatch store.dispatch, and the action is add color. So this would return, this function will return the action add color blue. So we would have a action with a type add here. Similarly, there could be a remove also which can be called. For example, I'm calling it here. For the setup, what we need to do is we need to have this Redux DevTools installation. This is not a mandatory thing, it's optional. It would allow us to see the state, the Redux state, which visibly also we shall be able to see. And we start the HTTP server using this command, and the file would be in the current directory. That's where dot is listed here, and then we can open the URL in the Chrome or whatever is our favorite browser and see how it behaves. So let's go and see the code now. So this is the code. All these steps I have already explained. We are including the Redux JavaScript here. We are creating the actions here. So these two functions are going to return actions, and the first action has the type add color, second has the type remove color. We have this reducer. What it does is, if the state is undefined, it initializes it with the empty array. Otherwise it will concatenate in the array whatever is the action dot color. Action dot color is what? Whatever is there in the action. So this is the action object in this color. This color is appended here. If it is a remove color, it is removing the color from the state array and returning the array with the color removed. If there is any other type of action which is there, which is not in add color or remove color, there is no action taken and the same state is returned as is. Then we create a store. So we can create a store directly like this, but if we have to have Redux DevTools, we want to use them, then we have to put this also. So this is optional. You can either use this if you want to see the Redux state in the DevTools, then you have to put this command. Then we subscribe. to the store changes, and this render function is the callback which gets called whenever the store changes. And we saw that it what it does is, if the document is in ready state, if it is not in ready state, it just returns, but if it is in ready state, it changes the color of the div. Okay, it gets this element and changes the background color of this element. And this is where we are dispatching these actions. So we dispatch, and then when we dispatch this action, reducer comes into effect and it changes the state, and the state change induces the subscription and the callback is called. So let's see it in action now. And see, this is the div. This is a div which will change the color. So very simple HTML file which has only this, and then the scripts are there. The scripts for Redux, uh, and very simple, only one div element which would have the color change as we change the state. Let me open the Chrome now and show you the demo. So I am in the directory where all the HTML file is kept. I would do a ls, and then I would do the HTTP server start by doing this. So we can see that the HTTP server is available here. So let me open Chrome and open this URL. So yes, now I have opened the URL. You can see there are three files. This is the file which I'm using, redux.html. So let me open it. Okay, I would like to open I do a inspect, and I go here and I open Redux. So if I open Redux, I will be able to see the different things which were done. So what were the different dispatches we had done? First, we did a add color with blue, then we did a add color with green, then we removed the blue color, then we add color. So all those things which we done are listed here, and how the state changed is also listed here. So let me say that I want to change the state again, and I want to yeah, let me change the state one time. So I'll be changing the state now. Let me clear the console, and I would put this, instead of black color, let me put a light blue. So the moment I put a light blue, this div gets a background color of light blue, and I see the state also change. I got light blue added here. Now if I do the same thing and I say light green, the background has changed and also the state has also changed. So hope you are able to appreciate what exactly the Redux it is and how it works. Basically, if we have to summarize it, we have to dispatch actions, and those dispatched actions are being read by the reducers. Reducers act on them and update the store. On the update of the store, we can have subscriptions, which are basically callback functions which can get invoked, or we have functional components which can use hooks to get the data from the store. Thank you very much.